Hi, my name is Stefan Köhnemann. I'm a senior field application scientist at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And in my work, I'm responsible for the customer RHID experience lab. And I'm also an expert for extraction and rapid DNA. And today I will bring you the operational cases of the Applied Biosystems Rapid ID system in Central Europe. So this is an overview of my presentation. I will focus on laboratories in Germany and Switzerland that have already tested the Rapid ID instrument. And one lab is also already working with real casework samples and the Rapid ID. I will be open and present you the challenges that we had when we implemented the Rapid ID instrument. But of course, I will also show you what we did to support our customers and how we addressed the challenges that we had and what we do to prevent them in the future. So what is rapid DNA? Most of you maybe already know, but for those who are unaware, we can generate a DNA profile in 90 minutes with the Rapid ID instrument using Rapid ID sample cartridges. For that, you just have to insert a cheek swab, for example, or an evidence sample into the Rapid ID cartridge, insert it, and obtain a DNA result in as little as 90 minutes. There's the RapidLink software that can also get you the information if there's already a sample in the database that matches the sample that was actually run on the instrument. The instrument is designed to be operated by non-technical users, and it is approved by the FBI and is board for inclusion in the US National Offender Database. So what sample cartridges do we have? We have the ACE sample cartridges and the Intel cartridges, whereas the ACE sample cartridges are more for reference samples, buccal swabs, and also for wide variety of sample collection devices. And the Intel cartridges are for crime scene investigation samples like blood samples, bone, tissue, saliva, hair, or even clothing and other case type samples. We have technical note, for example, for the bones. So if you have any questions, please come back to me or one of my colleagues. So next slide is about the demo and the testing of the Rapid ID that we did at the Munich LKA, so the Bavarian LKA. There we tested reference samples and mock casework samples, and there was also a challenge because an extreme overloading of the sample cartridge with blood was tested. You can see it in the left picture. This is a swab soaked with blood, and an additional amount of blood was added to the swab because the customer thought that maybe this could happen in the field. And it was too much blood. You can see it on the right. There's blood bubbles coming out of the cartridge, and that's of course no good. Next slide. There was also another issue with the bolus. So when the instrument works the sample cartridge, there's a bolus that is essential for the analysis. And on top you can see a good bolus, and below you can see a poor bolus, and that could cause the analysis to fail. If you have an overloaded cartridge, like you have seen, this can also cause a poor bolus. But yeah, we looked at that and also said it's not good if that happens. So what can be done to prevent this? It's seen on the next slide. We've made a publication where we recommend what to do with samples, and also prepare a next publication where we will show how samples can be prepared. And yeah, this publication definitely helps the policeman in the field to work with Rapid ID and Rapid ID cartridges and samples. So next slide. Another issue that we have seen is that when the customer uses non-validated software, which is possible, of course, that there can be OL allele calls and also wrong allele calls. Of course, we do not recommend to use a non-validated software, but we also support it to get aware of what can happen in the field. We adjusted some software settings, and then that you can see below, customer got the correct allele call. Yeah, and of course, when the validated software, the gene marker software was used, there was also the correct allele call. So, of course, you can feel free to try it, but please stay in contact with us so that we can help you if you use non-validated software settings. Next slide. In a patch, we added a systematic allelic ladder to the allelic ladder library on the instrument, because that's something specific to the gene marker software. Yeah, the gene marker software chooses the best matching allelic ladder. And if you have a sample cartridge and a Rapid ID primary cartridge that gets old, the migration pattern of samples can change over time, because the gel on the cartridge gets older and then the migration changes. And to reflect these, a systematic allelic ladder library was added to the Rapid ID software, because the empirical ladders that were on the instrument did not reflect these conditions and had some limitations. So this was upgraded to help customers have a better experience with the allelic ladders and the calling of alleles, also when they use non-validated software. Next slide. This is about the LKA Hamburg, who have a Rapid 200 instrument. And there is an end of sales for the Rapid 200 instrument, just to make you aware. But LKA Hamburg has used the Rapid 200 since a longer time now, and they analyze transient samples of blood, ejaculate, or saliva to get quick results, and quite successful on that already. And it's important to say that they always analyze a second sample in their lab to confirm the analysis results that they get with the Rapid 200 instrument. Next slide. Another site that already has a Rapid ID instrument is the Landeskriminalamt Baden-Württemberg in Stuttgart. They do testing of reference samples and mock casework samples to validate the instrument. And now it is placed in a remote location in Baden-Württemberg and running real casework samples. It's integrated into a network with a DSL router and a crypto box for data safety reasons. And although it's placed in one booking station as of now, with this crypto box and DSL router can be transported also to crime scenes or other booking stations. Several casework samples were analyzed, and last information that I got, but that's already a month ago, is that they had 8 database hits in the German DNA database. And like with the LKA Hamburg, these samples were from blood, saliva, and ejaculate. The mobility enablement I will show you later on another slide. And I just want to mention that also the LKA, like the LKA Munich, had issues with poor bolus, but we upgraded the instrument, and since then the bolus issue did not happen again. And for every customer that buys a Rapid ID instrument now, they will definitely not see these bolus issues that we had again. Next slide. So here you see an example for the mobility. It's a van, and LKA Stuttgart also is enabled to use a van with their Rapid ID instruments. We are working together with them to even improve the experience, to make the instrument going mobile. And there's, of course, other solutions to move a Rapid ID instrument by putting it into a box. We have such a solution, are also working to improve this experience, to have better boxes. It's a thing that is in progress, and that's why for us it's very important to work together with the customers. And even if you are interested in purchasing a Rapid ID instrument, it's good to come back to us as soon as possible, that we can create a good and great experience together with you. Next slide. Again, Landeskriminalamt LKA Stuttgart. What you see on the left is the network diagram that we have for the Rapid ID instruments in Stuttgart. And on the right is what you can see is the possibility to put the Rapid ID instrument into a van. For that, there was also a shock absorbance plate built on a vehicle to drive or to go with the Rapid ID instrument from a location to a van or alike. Next slide is about the demo that we had at the École des Sciences Criminelles and the police in Lausanne. Again, there was a testing scheme where different samples were run and tested by the customer, and it was important that the mobility was tested. And I have here 2 pictures on the left where the Rapid ID is in a moving box. You can put a cover on it that you can see on the right. The Rapid ID instrument is boxed, and on the right picture on the left is a battery that you can use during the transportation of the Rapid ID instrument in the box. I did this already 3 times with my own car, So I had the rapid instrument in the box. I connected it to the power source, to this big battery, and was driving around to customers, and that worked very well. The next slide. Yeah, there again on the left you see the box I was talking about with the Rapid ID inside and the battery. And we drove in Lausanne, we drove to the police and placed it in a meeting room where we then did a demo and showed how a Rapid ID system works. Next slide. So we have a lot of more information to help you with the Rapid ID instruments. We call these job aid documents. There's a guidance, for example, for the sample types that you can use on the Rapid ID instrument, and it gives you information for samples with the highest potential for a good DNA profile, and that's important for Rapid because it cannot replace the lab. It's in addition to the normal lab workflow, and not every sample that you can collect should be run on a Rapid ID instrument. There's recommendations for best practices like the A-B bouquet method, and recommendations for different swabbing techniques. And there's color-coded protocols and guidances by sample type and cartridge type, and also gives you a suggestion of the expected yield that you can have. So my final slide. There I want to thank everybody, and especially the customers involved in these demos and testings that we had. So I'd like especially say thank you to Dr. Margit Jarosch and Dr. Stefanie Helfer from the Bavarian LKA in Munich, Germany. I'd like to thank Dr. Peter Pabli from the LKA Hamburg in Germany, Dr. Alexander Eberhardt and Dr. Nina Müller from the LKA Baden-Württemberg in Stuttgart in Germany, and of course Dr. Olivier Delemont and Lena Lüthi from École des Sciences Criminelles in Lausanne, Switzerland. Thank you, and if you have any questions, please come back to me or one of my colleagues so that we can make you a good experience with Rapid right from the start. Thank you.